So welcome everyone to a special episode. I call it a special episode every week. I guess it is a special episode tonight. This episode was picked out. Let me get my notes out so I look like an idiot and sound like an idiot already, but was picked out by a longtime friend. He is in the past, he's taken care of both of my parents, my father-in-law. He's been one of the brave warriors in the battle against COVID. Being, I guess, Anthony, you're in the COVID task force, right?
You could say that.
All right. He works in the ER at our local Garnet Health Center here in Middletown, New York, which was known as Orange Regional for years. Also a singer-songwriter. And before the pandemic, of course, he was a regular. He was out playing in the pubs and bars in Hudson Valley and doing his take on music. And he was a regular. If you're from Middletown area, he was a regular back in the day when we had the Cheeseburger in Paradise. They had that little stage in it to Jimmy Buffett's restaurant. So tonight we're here to talk about all things Pink Floyd. I found this is another band hard to pick songs, as I'm more familiar with only doing the albums in full. Like if I put on a Pink Floyd, it's either half an album or I'm putting in like a CD and listening to the whole thing for the most part. I mean, it's really hard for me to pick songs other than like the radio staples. I find this is a band that also can be broken into several parts, of course, like the early psychedelic days, then the more experimental stuff that they've got into with, Adam Hart Mother and stuff like that. And then, of course, how they turned into this like super giant act, stadium act and, almost pretty much surpassing some of the greats that they felt in England, like the Stones and the Who and Deep Purple and Zeppelin, and rivaling them in popularity. So welcome everyone to the show. I've got John Mcatee, one of our regulars on the channel from Incantation. We got Rick Labonte from Windsor, Ontario, singer-songwriter up there. We got Alex Bouks from Shadows and Immolation. He's got the new project Shadows, and John interviewed him about a week ago on the channel. Now Pete Pardo is in my center square. Pete, welcome from Hudson Valley Squares and Sea of Tranquility. Dan Gonzalez from Gruesome and Possessed. Robun Mazen from Gruesome and Dakota, and Jack George from WPDH. And of course, my special guest who picked this episode out tonight, Anthony Menella. Welcome to the room, everyone. And
hell yeah.
Who wants to go first? I know it's not Robin. Nope. I'm going to let Anthony go first since he's our special guest tonight.
No pressure.
Are you ready to go first, or you want Jack to go first? You're
No, let Jack. You know what? I'm going to let Jack go.
All right, then you're going second. So Jack, first time on the show, welcome.
Why am I going first?
So you can set the mood.
Oh, set the mood.
So.
Okay. So 3 favorite Pink Floyd songs. That's what we're going to do first here. My 3 favorites.
Yeah.
Okay. 2 of the 3 are not sung by one member of Pink Floyd.
Okay.
Can you name them? Wish You Were Here was sung by a member of Pink Floyd.
Have a Cigar. Roy Harper.
That is correct. Have a Cigar. Who sung it?
Roy Harper.
That is correct.
I was beat me to it.
So that's one. And what's the other one?
The second one, I'm stumped. So this is
I guess it's off of Dark Side of the Moon.
Dark Side of the Moon. Female singer, yes. The
Claire,
Great Gig in the Sky.
Great Gig in the Sky.
Claire Torrey. That is
Claire
correct.
Torrey.
Great Gig in the Sky. That is correct.
Yeah.
All right.
I was going to say that was Claire.
Claire Torrey. So those are my 2 favorites because it's different. And the third one would be I go all over the place because I play a lot of Pink Floyd on the radio. So
yes,
I would go with Keep Talking, which is on the Division Bill.
Nice.
Nice.
No, look, I like all Pink Floyd. I mean, I love Dark Side of it. It's hard to pick 3. Honorable mentions. Do I have to pick the honorable mentions? 1 or 2?
You don't have to do that now. We'll come back to
Oh,
that
okay.
at the end.
One has a disco beat in it, shall we say.
Okay. Well, that'll be something for us to think about.
Another brick in the wall.
No.
Cool. Of course.
But anyway.
I got one
So
question.
those are
for
my
you,
3
Jack.
favorites.
What are the songs that WPDH plays in steady rotation? I don't know how long this will take, but
Let's see if I can name one.
Like you've heard, like
Young Lust. I know Young Lust, Run Like Hell.
Yeah.
Money.
Yeah.
I also like that one too because of the bass beat in.
All good stuff.
Let me see. We do play Keep Talking. Learn
Okay.
to Fly. I mean, that's just a handful. Of course,
Yeah,
another
yeah,
brick in the
cool,
wall.
cool.
We play that, and I do want to
Comfortably
mention.
numb, I would think,
I
right?
have a show on Sunday night. I don't know if anybody's heard. It's called Soundcheck. I get to pick the live artists that we play, and I know Mr. Pardo sees it on Facebook and
Yeah.
compliments or gives it a thumbs down once in a while, but that's okay. You can't be perfect on everything. This week, because we're doing this, I'm picking Pink Floyd. It's one of the 3 artists that we're going to do live. We'll
Cool.
follow it up with Journey and the Smithereens, which I don't think
All
anybody's
right.
heard in a long time live.
It's a
So I
triple
tried to
header.
pick 3 artists that you would never see on the same stage.
Yeah. Unless
So
you're at a
that's the idea of
festival.
Soundcheck, and it's all live recordings. Some of them are bootlegs from King Biscuit. Some of them are from the Westwood One series.
Nice.
Some are the stuff that we've had lying around in a closet for many years. So because we're doing this, I'm choosing Pink Floyd. I haven't chosen the songs yet. I have 2 choices, from Earl's Court or from the Nassau Coliseum.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
We'll see what we
And
can do.
at the end of the show, we'll make sure you can plug the radio station and how people can find you on the web and all that if they want to check it out.
And you can listen all over the world except North Korea and Iran, because I don't think they get the internet. So
Okay. So here we go. Next in the room, Anthony, you are next. Welcome.
I am next. I'm gonna say, I mean, it's really hard to pick, just like 3 right off the bat.
Mhm.
I mean, from spanning from 67 all the way up to, I don't really count the Endless River in 2014, but
Yeah.
Definitely for me, I mean, even though it's done to death, Comfortably Numb is right up there with one of my favorites, just because of
Excellent.
Gilmour's guitar work. That I
Yeah.
think I was always enamored by, mainly because it was like, I can never play like that, so this is enjoyable. The other one, I think, when I first started listening, strangely enough, I was one of those people that when I got Dark Side of the Moon, my brother-in-law, my sister's husband, actually made me a cassette copy of it, and for some reason, it didn't start from the beginning. The tape was rewound right, like it was queued up to Us and Them. And that was like the first track I heard off of that album ever when I was a kid. So that's definitely the one that'll always stick out on Dark Side of the Moon for me. Lastly, I'll really fast forward, to give props to Jack with the Division Bell.
Yeah.
High Hopes will always just be a staple of mine.
Nice.
I mean, there's a small backstory to why that is, and I don't know if I'm allowed to go into that.
You can tell a quick story on a song.
Yeah,
Sure.
I think High Hopes was something, because it's like when the Division Bell came out, it came out in '94, and I had gotten tickets to see. That was the first time I ever saw them, so I saw them on that tour.
Yeah, so did I.
And I was like 19. Me and Eddie Romeo, Eddie Romeo, and two other friends. Actually,
Nice.
Strangely enough, it was actually my local pharmacist here in town, who I didn't even know him then. He was a mutual friend of a friend, and now he's since passed away. And it's unbelievable that like there was that connection there.
Yeah.
And his name was Ray Matthews, nicest guy.
Yeah.
And High Hopes was always a great song because it came out like the year after I graduated high school. And the premise of the song of like, thinking about your past. And even though it's like, all right, high school's only a year ago, so it's really, but then it kind of had like it kind of revamped with me later on. Like, after I surpassed my 30s and got into my 40s, I would listen to that song and go, oh yeah. And it just bring everything back. Like literally like High Hopes is like the living embodiment to everything that, that was me for like the 90s and everything else. And that's that. And, I mean, the other thing to actually say, every Pink Floyd, I don't want to say every merch, but every recording, to everybody in the room, every recording I ever bought, I bought at Rock Fantasy.
Woo! Where's that place at?
It's,
I never heard of it.
I don't want to do my imitation of you like what me and my friends would do behind your back in the day, but
Do it.
it's
Do it.
79
John's
West
throwing me under the
Main.
bus. Go ahead. Do it. Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
Oh, Jack, Monday Night Metal. Oh, I don't know if I can make it.
We got bubble hockey. I would do that, and people would be like, "Is that Eddie Vedder?" No, no.
Eddie Vedder.
But I think, because most of my collection was, stolen or borrowed from my late brother John, who since passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And like I never bought like a Pink Floyd album. Like I don't know why. It's like, I had the hand-me-downs, so it's like I had Dark Side of the Moon,
a lot of people
I had the Wall.
older brothers.
And I remember I walked into your store with some friends from my high school. It was my senior year.
Yeah.
Or excuse me, my junior year. And so it was the fall of '92.
Okay.
And I walked in there, and I was like a late bloomer with CDs. That's the weird thing about me. So it's like I still bought cassettes.
There you go.
And there in your cassette case, I remember I bought. Look, Brian Rapp was actually working for you at the time.
Okay, from
And
Ben
he's like,
Circus.
can I get you something? And I was like, the Final Cut. I was like, give me that. And give me Adam Hart Mother. And I bought those two on cassette. And I didn't know anything about Adam Hart Mother then.
Yeah.
And I remember like listening to them in like the tape deck of my car. The Final Cut I knew, but those are the first two cassettes of Pink Floyd that I ever bought. I bought them at your store.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it was around June. Yeah, like June of '92.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for your input, and we're going to come back around and hit you up in a little bit. And next in line on my screen is Robun Mazen. Welcome, Amazing Mazen's here.
Oh goodness. Okay. So for top 3 songs.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was like really hard to narrow them down, and I went by thinking of what I like the most. I think obviously, but over like a course of time. So for my third song is Pigs, basically.
Nice.
Hell yeah.
So that's my third. And then for my second is Goodbye Blue Sky.
Nice.
And like later when I revisited this, maybe this is the reason why it's my second favorite. But if you listen to the beginning, it's super heavy, but then it almost has like a fade to black guitar. If you go back and listen to it, maybe it's like subconscious why it's my second favorite. I don't know.
Okay.
But I hear like a little bit of like that Metallica, but the beginning's so heavy and it's like such a good song. And then my first is, one of the more listened to, Wish You Were Here.
Okay.
So
Nice.
because I was in high school playing in guitar class, and each like week somebody would have to pick a song on Monday, and then we would play it all week, and then you'd have to perform it for the class on Friday. And somebody brought in that song as one that we had to play. So like that was one of the first songs I learned how to play on guitar.
Nice.
So, and it still has meaning to me, and it's like I'm going to say it's a beautiful song. I think it's very, also a weird thing too is I used to carry a picture around of David Gilmour in my wallet.
Oh, really?
He was on the first side of James Hetfield.
Let me guess, David Gilmour from '72?
It was David Gilmour from a long time ago.
Like the long hair guy, right?
Yeah, like when he was, but he was on the backside of, my James Hetfield.
That guy there.
Yeah, the one though where he's standing kind of like, what I'm talking about. Anyway.
Yeah.
So he was on the backside of my James Hetfield picture from the Metallica Ozzy tour when James broke his hand.
Oh, wow.
So that was like my, but I always respected, that and, him, and he's obviously probably my favorite in the band, I think, like as far as,
yes,
and he still is my favorite, I just like his guitar playing so amazing, and,
excellent.
So those are my top 3, and then I have my honorable mentions.
Well, hit you up with
I can't share some stories because then like maybe after I'll share a story, but yeah.
After we'll do stories after. Yeah. And Cool. Thanks, Robin. And we're moving on to another member of your band, Gruesome, Mr. Daniel Gonzalez, also from Possessed guitarist. And welcome to the show. I like it. We're getting like a perspective from DJs and journalists, and we've got like the death metal, thrash metal crew giving perspective on something that a lot of people wouldn't think that Pink Floyd would be a band that they would like. But I think this is a great episode.
Yeah, I mean, I could talk about Pink Floyd for fucking hours, really.
Okay.
It's actually my favorite,
Me
I
too.
guess, non-metal band ever.
I had to recommend you, Dan, because I knew that. That's why I recommended you.
It's all because of you, Robin. Yeah.
Yeah, so as much as my musical upbringing, I discovered Pink Floyd through my father. He had, of course, tons of LPs, but as a kid, that was more like the music that my dad listened to.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until my, late teens, early 20s when I started dabbling on substances that Pink Floyd kind of like really made a lot of sense, and I kind of like something clicked.
Yes.
So I became like obsessed, and I've analyzed, like I said, it's one of my favorite bands. So I've analyzed all the albums. I have history books, anything you name it.
Wow.
So for me, it's really hard to like just name 3 songs,
It's
especially
impossible
because
almost.
the way a lot of the albums are sequenced. But I'll do my best, and if I'm going too long, you can just shut me up and move on.
That's okay.
And I think, like I mentioned to you before, to me, Pink Floyd has like at least 4 different stages, like just like basically
Yeah.
sounding wise and
Agree, definitely.
So I'm gonna go in order more than like favorite songs.
That's cool.
So I'm gonna start with Syd Barrett era. One of my favorite albums, Piper at the Gates of Dawn. And I would say like my favorite song from that album is Turn Me the Mind.
Yes.
It's such a great song. Like it's the first song on the album, and it starts with like this like dissonant chords, like for being like in early 60s bands, nobody was like using that kind of chord and kind of weird arrangement. So, eerie,
sound
keyboards
effects.
and Leslie that Richard Wright was using at the time. I mean, it's a great song. And it's been covered by a bunch of metal bands for sure. So like a lot of people, definitely it's a great song. I'm gonna mention the album more, which is not very popular, but there's the Nile song is in it. And the Nile song, and this could be a big argument, but the Nile song is attributed to be one of the first like heavy metal songs ever recorded. And that was in 1969.
Yeah.
And if you listen to that song, that's like full on distortion as much they could get of the amps. David Gilmour was like literally screaming, the lyrics, the drums are like super loud. So to me, that makes a lot of sense. And, to me, a metalhead, that makes, it's like an important song, and it's a great song also.
It is.
Then I'm gonna skip to Atom Heart Mother. Atom Heart Mother Suite. That whole song, it's one of my favorite songs ever. That's incredible. The way they, arrange the orchestra around the band. And then they looped around, with tape tricks at the end of the song. It was incredibly creative with the tools they had at the time. Beautiful song. Then next I would say Metal. It's another favorite album. There's not a bad song on that album at all.
Nope.
But of course, there's one of these days that's obviously super famous song. It's great. but Echoes. I mean, that song, it's a super epic song. Um, you know, super brilliant chord arrangements, and then it goes into this trippy, like creepy synth and sound effects, and then it turns into like pretty major chords, and you know, it opens up again. It's incredibly brilliant. I'm gonna I'm gonna skip Dark Side of the Moon because that's obviously like, actually I'm not gonna skip it. I do have to say something about Money. I love Money, of course. I mean, I love the whole album, but one of the reasons why I really like Money is because it's one of the few like popular songs that constantly plays in the radio. That's Odd Meter. It's a 7/4 riff, and that's incredibly rare to you know, radio playing songs with odd meters. So that tells you like how amazing they are as musicians, to be able to come up with something that catchy in such an odd meter.
Yeah, the timing signature.
Yeah. Wish You Were Here. I love the album completely, but if I have to pick favorites, I will choose Shy on You, Crazy Diamond, all the parts. Especially the last part is oddly one of my favorite because Richard Wright wrote it, and he's incredibly sad and melancholic, and it's an amazing closer. Even though it ends like in a major key, it's an amazing closer. The last part is the best part to me. Animals is probably my top favorite album. So any of those songs, if you want to talk about them later, for sure.
Yeah, all right.
Same thing with The Wall. I love the whole album. Kind of hard to pick just one song.
Yeah.
Especially since there are a lot of songs that they couldn't make it in the album because of the time restriction that LPs had at the time, and you can hear them in re-releases and in the movie, but there's a lot more songs that didn't make in the album. So
yeah,
I think I kind of got cheated out of that.
When
Final Cut, I love that album. And Division Bell, it's really amazing, and like you know, a couple of people already mentioned Keep Talking. It's a great song, and the Closer song, which is, I think, is that Division Bell or is it High Hopes?
High Hopes is on a Division Bell. Yeah, that's the end song on that.
Closer, yeah. Those two songs are amazing. You know, High Hopes has an acoustic, like Spanish guitar.
Yeah, that Spanish guitar is the best.
Which he's never really done that before that I can recall. So it's kind of like a very special song that he decided to use like a nylon string guitar for that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So anyway, so that there goes my rant. I try to keep it short. So, you know, if you want to run back, then by all means.
I'll come back and we'll visit you in a little bit. In our center square tonight, it's not Paul Lind, it's Peter Pardo from the Sea of Tranquility in Hudson Valley Squares. Look at this guy's a real fan. He's got a Sea of Tranquility mug.
Wow.
Awesome.
Nice. I don't think I've ever been to Center Square before, Steve, on any of these shows, ever.
Like that means you got to end the show with some kind of stupid joke later.
I can do that. All right.
I don't want to copy your format completely.
All right. Well, I'm going to cheat a little bit here today, Steve, and I'll tell you why. And I think you hit it right off the bat at the beginning of the show. You said how hard it is to kind of take Pink Floyd songs out of the album.
True.
And I'm an album guy, and I always listen to. I never listen to albums to hear songs. I like to listen to the whole things through and through. I've always been that way. So I did on Sea of Tranquility, I don't know, about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I did Pink Floyd top 10 songs. And that was really tough. But my top three were ironically all from the same album, which also happens to be my favorite Pink Floyd album of all time. So I didn't want to just replicate that here. So I'm going to cheat a little bit.
Good.
My number 3 is actually going to be 2 songs that start off an album and end an album. So my number 3 is going to be Shine On You Crazy Diamond, parts 1 and 2. They kind of go together anyway. So that's going to be my number 3. And I mean, I don't know how much more needs to be said about that. It's just classic Pink Floyd. It's so haunting, so chilling. I love Richard Wright's playing on that, and the vocals and Gilmour, I mean, the whole 9 yards, just wonderful stuff. My number 2 is probably going to be, I think someone else mentioned, chilling, creepy, trippy. It's definitely the best mescaline trip you'll ever want to take by putting on an LP, right? Echoes from the Metal album. I mean, that is like absolute perfection. And I think that song personifies what Pink Floyd were always all about, especially early on. And my number 1, again, I'm cheating here big time, but it's going to be Dogs, Pigs, and Sheep, the entire freaking Animals album. You can't separate any of those songs from each other. It's all part of one. I listened, in preparation for this, I listened to the whole thing again for like the millionth time about 2 hours ago. You can't pick any of those songs off that album.
No.
And they all move into each other. They all segue into each other. And to me, that whole album is taken as a whole, and I love it all from start to finish. And to me, it's just one long song. So that is my number 1. And, Comfortably Numb sits just outside of this list because that Gilmour guitar solo is absolutely Herculean.
Yeah.
And, Welcome to the Machine, Astronomy Dominate, all these great songs. So, but I'll let the next person go because I could talk forever.
That's good. That's what you're good at, Pete. And thanks for joining us tonight again.
Thanks for having me.
The next in line, since Andrew Freeman's not on tonight, we always joke, not the last in line, is Alex Bouks from the mighty Immolation, and he has a new product out called Shadows too. And Alex, we hear you're a big Pink Floyd fan too, and that's why you're here. So
yeah,
John's shaking his head.
Well, it's really difficult for me to name 3 songs. Pink Floyd is my all-time favorite band. I've been a huge fan of Pink Floyd since the 70s, since my, I had a couple of older uncles that, gave me a really good musical education in the 70s. And it's really difficult, but I'll try to just keep it down to, because it could change from day to day.
That's what happens
but,
on these shows.
Number 3, I'll go with The Narrow Way, which is off of, I don't know, you can pronounce it Umaguma or Umaguma.
Umaguma, yeah.
That song is just, it's a really dark song, and it really takes on, takes you on a journey, that song, I think. And because each member had their own part of the album where they kind of took over writing a song, and I guess that was like Gilmour's contribution to that record. So I would say The Narrow Way, number 3. Number 2, I'd have to go with Shine On You Crazy Diamond, all parts. Wish You Were Here is probably my favorite Pink Floyd record.
Okay.
And number 1 would have to be Echoes, and the Live at Pompeii version, actually, which I think is
Great. That's so
the
good.
best version of that song. The Live at Pompeii, just that,
Thank you for
video
saying
had
that.
such a huge impact on
It's
me.
insane.
And Gilmour's guitar solo on Echoes on that version is just phenomenal. The guitar tone, everything, phenomenal. But yeah, Pink Floyd, I can go on and on and on. John knows how much of a huge Floyd fan I am. And Gilmour's probably my favorite guitar player next to Eddie Van Halen or Tony Iommi or somebody like that.
Cool.
But Gilmour's probably my number 1 guy. I guess, being a death metal guy, a lot of people probably surprised to hear stuff like that. But Floyd's been a staple in my life, all my life, so.
Excellent.
So that would be my 3, I guess, for today.
Okay.
I love your pick there, Alex. And here's the biggest, what the fuck head scratcher in the history of rock and roll. How they never took that Live at Pompeii movie
I know.
into a soundtrack and released it as a live album.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
And
I
I
think
would
there's some
even go
like
further.
bootlegs,
Good.
like somebody
Yeah, and you can
mastered some
find it.
bootlegs and
Yeah,
stuff.
but I
Yeah.
mean, they would have made millions on that if they would have
Yeah,
released it as an
yeah,
act.
I agree.
But
I
it wasn't a
agree.
concert.
I agree. I was thinking the same thing, like this show. Wouldn't that be nice to have the actual footage of, or the audio
Wow.
of that concert? I mean, I've heard the bootleg, but imagine if that was released to
Same.
the world like the Song Remains the Same was.
I would have just liked to be one of the guys hanging out, the 5 guys that were probably sitting there hanging out in the amphitheater.
Well,
Imagine that.
if I may interject, to
Set up for a
me,
show,
that's
right?
not a
Yeah.
concert. It was just them and Pompeii. There's no crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
No,
crazy.
they're
Film
just
crew.
they're just at the amphitheater, at the empty amphitheater.
Yeah. Later
I was-
on,
Yeah.
David Gilmour and his
Yes, he
band went
revisited.
there for the first time. Listen to this, Stack Kids. First
Yeah.
time an actual live concert in Pompeii at the amphitheater in front of people since 49. And I don't mean 1949. I mean the actual
AD.
year of 49.
Yeah, AD.
That's 1,972 years ago.
So my family is actually right from Pompeii, like because my
Oh,
dad's
wow.
from first generation estates. So my dad's from a small town in Naples called Torre del Greco, which is about probably maybe like 5 miles away from Pompeii. So every time we were there, we visited Pompeii. And I remember my cousins who, spoke English enough telling me, Pink Floyd performed here. I'm like, what? How is that possible? Never knowing until like later on. But I stood at that amphitheater, and it's ghostly, because it's like, you're surrounded by, Vesuvius is only, just, a couple of 100 yards behind you. And to know, like, of the catastrophic disaster that happened and everything that was wiped out. And, and here they are performing, here back in the 70s, and to stand there, even though it was like 10 years later, you can almost hear it, not to sound spiritual, but, you get a vibe, you can feel it there.
Yeah. A lot of history in it. Yeah. Crazy.
I'm glad I got to do that.
Yeah. That's an amazing story. Cool.
And I recommend that David Gilmour live at Pompeii. Great sound.
great.
Lots of
I saw
Pink
it.
Floyd
It's
stuff, his solo
Yes.
stuff as well. And I heard some rumblings. I don't know if it was the people's stomachs or it was an actual volcano waiting to go.
Vesuvius
wow.
still, there's definitely still seismic activity,
Yes.
but it's, I wouldn't consider it dormant.
Yeah, I seen that at the theater when they had the preview to see it before it came on DVD and everything. And it was amazing being in a theater that loud, hearing it like that. It was like being in the concert.
Rick, actually, if Alex is done with his turn for this time around, it's actually your turn, Rick. It's going to be Rick and then either me or John to round out the first round, and then we'll come back for the closing statement.
Okay, well,
I
thanks
think
for the
I think this is going to
invitation.
be a long show because people are really passionate about this band, and everything's been very interesting so far from my ears, at least.
Right on. I mean, I love this band since my cousin turned me on to him. He was a couple years older, and I actually heard the album because he had them. The only one we didn't have that I went and bought was Wish You Here. And it is my favorite album too. I mean, not my favorite, like I always say this is the perfect album, but the album I go to is The Animal because it's the one that less played by the radio all the time. And I love it. And like Pete said, I never listen to the album just spot on one song at a time. I have to hear the whole album.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting how they, from Dark Side of the Moon, even to Animals, they bookend the album. They start with something to give you a hint and they close the record like that. Just like a TV show, you open credits and then ending credits of the TV show theme. It was an experience. And what really got me into Pink Floyd was putting on headphones for the first time, on 12-13 to Dark Side of the Moon and all that, this stereo effect and switching back and forth. It was just a mind blowing. And of course, I don't think an album really ever stood to the time, test of time like that sonically, that people can actually say, you want to hear a good stereo system? Put on that, put the whole album and you hear it out. So that was a big thing for me. And, but I do respect the era of Sid Barrett, as somebody mentioned earlier, Lucifer, Sam, and all those songs. And then when he was not functioning, they were kind of leadershipless for a few albums. I respect some of those songs but my favorite period of Pink Floyd was 1970s to 79. And to pick three songs, I'm just gonna pick a song from those three albums that I think are the finest. So I start with this is probably my go-to album all the time now, because even when I seen Pink Floyd 2 times, Roger Waters 4 times, 5 times, David Gilmour, it's a treat to have them play this stuff. They always play Wish You Here. They always play Dark Side of the Moon, The Wall. So when I hear this, I'm jumping on my seat, and so many people don't even know what the songs are. So I'm gonna pick, that would be Pigs, 3 different ones. That would be the song of this. And I saw him do that live last time around, just before the world came to an end. Just how live music goes. And my second choice would be Shine On You Crazy Diamond, the entirely. And I think I struggle with this because Echoes is kind of like this in a way where it builds up a mood and it shows you all the dynamic of the band. But I like this one because everybody sings and it's about their hero that they lost. It's about Sid, and I think the meaning. So I struggle between this and Echoes. So Alex, I'm with you there. I appreciate that choice that you brought up. I'm glad somebody did. But the last number one song would be the one that still to this day, as much as I've heard it, I get moved here. Whether it's the piano bit or the saxophone or just the lyrics, it's really deep thought, and that's Us and Them from this album.
Nice.
And I really like that song. It's in me every time, and every time I seen them do that live, whether it's Roger or David or Floyd, they do it with justice.
Nice.
So thanks for sharing.
Thank you, Rick. That was amazing. Some nice input from you. And John, do you want to go next? Or you want me to go next?
I'll go next. Let's get her
You're
done.
going next. So you know what it's like to be the last one now. You're the last in line.
I'm last in line. Yeah.
Now I'm going to be the last in line.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, Rick is right that the Dark Side of the Moon is like sonically might be one of the best albums of all time.
Yes.
I mean, really, it's just it sounds. I don't think I've heard anything from that when it was released that sounded that sonically good. That still today sounds that sonically good. I mean, stuff from that time sounds dated, and I like that sound. But when you hear Dark Side of the Moon, I mean, it sounds like an album that could have been recorded, you know, I don't know, yesterday almost, or at least in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
As far as like sound wise goes, and obviously, I mean, the whole album is amazing. It's really difficult. I mean, I definitely had to pose out on this one. I couldn't do songs. It's just impossible. I mean, how do you pick from such greatness?
Yeah.
It's even hard to pick albums, really. It's almost like you want to pick my favorite 4 eras of the band or something. But, you know, I had to go with albums because I don't think I ever listened to just songs unless it's on a radio, they're playing it, but I don't like hang out and just pick one Pink Floyd song. 'Cause I mean, it's an experience, you know? And one thing I did want to bring up too, real quickly, is Live in Pompeii might also be one of the best live performances ever. And I mean, there was nobody there, you know, but it really is. I mean, it's so amazing. I don't even know how to explain it. I mean, it really is probably one of the best live things that ever happened in the world. Maybe I don't know. I just love that vibe. It's hard to explain how good it is, but you know, when you watch it, I mean, I know the first time I watched it, I was just like, what the hell is happening? Like, holy
intoxicating.
Crap. Yes, you know, and it really. I mean, there's a lot of great. It's great seeing a lot of great bands in my lifetime, you know, but that was one of those experiences watching that recording. It was just like so good. Like a lot of times you got to psych yourself up to watch like a live thing. And okay, I like the band and okay, the live show is okay. But that one was like, that made you a fan of Pink Floyd. I mean, it made me more of a Pink Floyd fan after watching that than I was beforehand, really. But I just had to mention that because it is one of the most amazing things. And I think I've actually heard about that from Alex, Live in Pompeii, because I heard him always talking about it. And I never really paid attention to it because I'm actually a late bloomer to Pink Floyd. I mean, I really didn't like them until probably 1990. So, you know, that's 20 years old or something, at that time. But as far as my favorite, like I said, I have to go with albums because I just listen to them as albums.
That's fine. I'm
And
popping you with that tonight.
yeah, and yeah, I can only pick them by the ones that made impacts on me more than what songs are great, because I mean they're almost all masterpieces in their own way. Especially the 70s stuff is just out of control. But I would have to go with The Wall because for my third pick, because that was the first time I really even heard Pink Floyd, because I went as a kid to see the Wall movie. I really didn't know Pink Floyd. I just knew that they were some crazy band that was like, you do lots of drugs and listen to them. And I was like 10 years old. And, I knew it was like cool to like Pink Floyd, but I didn't really understand it. But it just the way the Wall was and the writing and the cool animations on the posters. I was like, I got to see this movie, like, I mean, honestly, I was expecting like, I don't know, Black Sabbath or something, from the pictures. I wasn't really expecting like something so acid trippy or
Yeah.
so crazy and stuff. I mean, I didn't get it. I mean, watching it, I had no clue to what was going on. I didn't even know the material or nothing, I just was just like, what am I watching? But then, after a little while, I had the cassette of it and I listened to it. And I kind of started getting into it, understanding it. And that album connected to me as a metalhead because it does have some metalish aspects to some of the songs. That has
Absolutely
a metal vibe to it, so that was what I really got into. But I never, it wasn't until, 10 years later that I listened to a little bit more, I really, I guess, paid attention to Pink Floyd. I listened to Animals when I was about 19 or 20 or something. And it was just like one of those things where somebody was like, just sit on the couch and just listen to this album, and just, I didn't do any drugs or nothing. So it was just like, just sit there and just zone out to it, And I was like, wow, I really, like you can really tell, like you can really get it. It's like, if you just sit there and just zone out on it and just really listen to the vibe, because it wasn't even like I was the riffs. It was like, it's like the journey it takes you on. It's like a mental journey. And yeah, from that point on, I kind of really got to be a fan. So really, my second pick has to be Animals, because that's just the one that really got me into listening to the rest of their discography and kind of checking it out and stuff like that. And I mean, the number one pick I have to pick because I just love David Gilmour's guitar playing so much. It's just unbelievable. The feeling that guy has. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all how many notes or what notes. They all seem to make sense somehow. He just knows how to make every single inflection on that guitar mean something. Even the noise in between the notes. It's the subtleties are just insane. So I just love his guitar playing so much. I've really learned to appreciate it. But so I have to go with "Wish You Were Here" album, because that guitar playing is just holy crap. I mean, the song "Wish You Were Here," when I listen to it, it almost brings tears to my eyes, because it just means so much when I hear those guitar parts on there. The way the acoustic guitar is playing, the way the lead guitar plays, just the textures it's just out of control. I mean, there's so much great Pink Floyd material to choose from, but just when I hear those hang notes, it's just like, how do you be so much at one with the guitar? It's unbelievable. I mean, I've watched so many great guitar players play and so many different styles, but that to me, when he just picks a note and just hangs there, I mean, he could just pick. I mean, I could go watch him play a live show. He could play like one note the whole night, and it would be just the most amazing thing ever. I think he's super. I mean, the talent is just I don't know. It's adequate. I mean, the whole band's talented, but as a guitar player, I just totally admire that guitar playing. It just blows my freaking mind. I mean,
Yeah.
and that's in a world of some, you know, there's so many amazing guitar players, but he really is to me
Yes.
one of the, I mean, for any style, he's probably a king, or at least, you know, it's hard to, you know, he's one of my favorites for sure. I mean, I love him and Brian May and
Okay.
you know, Tony Iommi. It's like the same thing. Like he's like almost like the counter to Tony Iommi. Like when Tony Iommi hangs on a note, it's like the evilest thing you ever heard in your life, you know. And he just hangs and like wiggles that note. And it's the same, you know, when David Gilmour does it, you just feel like the emotion of like whatever he's trying to express, you know. And like I said, I mean, you know, watching him play, you know, sometimes almost brings tears to my eye, and how good of a guitar player is, because it's so passionate and you just can focus in on it. It's unbelievable. So those are
Well,
my picks.
He's a lyrical guitar player. You can almost hear the melody. It's almost
Yeah.
like he's singing with his guitar. There's
Oh,
no doubt.
one thing I wanted to bring up too about Animals, and especially Animals and Wish You Were Here, is that how does a band do albums like that, hating each other so much?
Right.
I mean, how does that happen? I mean, if everybody hates each other so much, but there's so much emotion put into it.
Yeah.
Not many musicians would. Most musicians would say piss off, you know, like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
just not want to put in that much. You know, I mean, I think for Wish You Were Here, like they weren't even in the studio at the same time. A lot of times, like they
Yeah.
just, you know, one would leave and the other one would come in, you know, and it's like, how
Like
do you do it?
even during the Wall, like Richard Wright was getting so
Yeah.
disenchanted with it.
How do you,
And then he wasn't even on the final cut because he was like, I don't know what you're doing anymore, Roger.
From
yeah,
what I understand, he wasn't even on the wall. His name was on there.
Yeah.
but I
Yeah.
don't even think he played on the wall.
Yeah, but
As
the wall was supposed to be
session guy
Roger
on the tour.
Waters' album, not Pink Floyd. That was probably like
Yeah.
a management decision or something. So,
but I mean, I don't know. I mean, being in a band, how do you do an album if you basically despise the, you know, other members so much, but you still come up with like some of the best music to ever happen? I mean, I know that tension sometimes brings greatness, but I mean, the stories that I've heard, it was such an incredible tension. I mean,
A lot of negativity. Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Room, and to be able to have that creativity with that kind
Friction
of
starts fire.
Ask Fleetwood
Yeah.
Mac. They've been able to do many albums with tensions. and,
Richards and
Some bands
Jagger,
that
they
can
always
make it
something else.
last for numerous albums, but I don't think as long as Pink Floyd did. Yeah,
Pink
because they
Floyd were-
literally
yeah.
couldn't stand each other for like 5 albums, and somehow
And they had a lot of pressure, extreme pressure, because back when no one gave a crap, before Meadows, and they kind of let them do their thing, 'cause they didn't figure it out. There was no pressure. There was no, but once they had that template, Dark Side of the Moon, they had to live to that. In fact, I find it today that they better live engaging with the crowd. They can enjoy the fame today a lot better than they could then. They didn't enjoy it as much, and it was too much pressure. Everything had to be perfected, and they were very competitive. Like John was saying, that they fought with each other because they had too much of a high standard that they couldn't enjoy it, and that's the problem.
Cool.
I think that's what it's just, you know, when you're a young musician, you have that ambition and sometimes egos and things like that. I can, you know, speak for myself, you know, being younger and you're ambitious and your ego gets in the way and all that kind of stuff. And now, you know, being older, you kind of look back and you really appreciate things, you know, and you enjoy it a lot more than you did when you were in your 20s.
Yep.
Well, I guess
So I'm a solo artist.
I guess it's my turn to grab the thing and run here. So when I started off tonight, I kind of didn't finish my intro because I was talking about the different, like we've all talked about the different not versions, but different, you know, chapters in Pink Floyd's life. And I mean, I went as far as when they became in the 70s and became so huge. And then of course you had the Gilmour era without Waters and like Division Bell. That's the album that I got to see that tour at the Meadowlands Arena. I guess that might have been the one that Anthony was at also. I don't know if anybody else.
Yankee Stadium.
No, I saw it at Giant Stadium actually. So you saw it at the base in the city. I saw it in Jersey.
Yeah, I saw it at Yankee Stadium.
I was at the Yankees.
I can tell you the date on that one there, Steve. It was October 11th, 1987.
Division Bell? No.
No, the concert that you saw,
Was it?
according to my records here. And I'll
Division
tell you
Bell.
where I
Division
got that
Bell came out
info.
That was
Momentary lapse of reason.
momentary lapse of reason then.
Yeah,
Was
that's
it? Okay.
momentary lapse of reason.
Yeah,
too.
I saw Division Bell. Yeah, it was 90.
Oh, okay.
Anyhow, so as I start off my story tonight, I mean, you got to look at the Pink Floyd earlier material, which I listened to a lot over the weekend. Some of my favorites, like Careful with That Axe, Eugene off of Relics. Of course, the kind of from back then, See Emily Play. I've always liked that off of Relics. And the Nile song. The Nile song
Yeah.
was really, really good. And who went on to cover that? Did Voivod cover that? I know they covered.
Voivod did it. Yep.
I know they did Astronomy de Mine.
They did it on The Outer Limits.
No, yeah, and that, what a great song, you know. And of course, One of These Days off of Metal. But I'm going to start off, and I've cheated tonight too. I didn't go by the rules, but we're doing our own thing. We're all talking about bands that we're passionate about. And my number one album has to be the masterpiece, 72's Dark Side of the Moon. I got a short story that maybe it's not too short of a story, but I want to tell you a story about that. You know how music like brings you back to special moments, like, you know, if you hear something from back
Yes.
in the 80s or 70s, and you can just put that like that year of radio and put that and like, oh, I was doing that then. So I was down in Florida at the time, in South Florida. My wife's mom lived down there and she turned quite ill. She needed a transplant surgery. So we were going down there a lot. So Port Charlotte, like Punta Gorda, Florida, was my home away from home in the early 2000s. How I became a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan, actually, because I was down there so much. And one day I was visiting my sister-in-law down there because, you know, her mom was down there and Linda would go and want to spend time with her. And I didn't want to sit around the house and play Scrabble and stuff. So I was in Florida, you know, you'd go down there, it was like, you know, beautiful out and there was things to do. So like her sister lived down there. So me and her would go and hang out. Let's go, like go out to eat or do something. So, you know, back then didn't have Spotify, didn't have anything like that. So we heard like Pink Floyd. I was like, man, I didn't bring that CD with me, but hey, let's go buy it. Like, so she goes, yeah, there's a record store in the mall. So we went and bought Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon. And, you know, it was just, now it's special to me because I've lost track of what I was writing down. I always think of Tony because we had such a fun day that day. We went to like do a outside bar. We had some beers. We went back and met up with Linda and her, you know, their mom, and we went off and met their, you know, hung out with the family. But I always think of Tony in that fun day. I lost Tony. We all lost Tony and the family to a domestic violence a few years back down in Florida. And, you know, every time I hear that record now, I think of that day, and I actually get sad listening to that album still from that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it was like a special time. And so now it not only becomes one of the most intense, I think it's one of the most intense like listens. You don't have to smoke a joint to it, but if you do, I guess it helps. But to make it even more like sunk in the couch and zoned out with a lot of their music. But one of the most perfect rock albums ever. It now has a really deep meaning that will carry me for the rest of my life. But listening to that. You know, like people that are watching in, what albums have great meaning to some of our viewers? If you want to comment in the comment section, like Pink Floyd or otherwise, something that really hits you and tears your heartstrings or something like that. And of course, Pink Floyd, I call it like smooth, heavy, cool, relaxing. My favorite tracks from it is Time and Brain Damage. If I'm gonna, because I originally started doing songs and I kind of switched it around today. My number, and of course, Dark Side of the Moon continues to hold the record for the most charted weeks on the Billboard 200, 917.
Yeah.
It was released in 73. It spent a week at #1, but it continued to chart on a regular basis through 1988. So, I mean, that album touched so many people's lives, all genres, you know, from that time period. I think it actually came back and charted again when it got reissued a couple times.
It did. Like I think after they released the Division Bell, it came back.
And then, yeah, I remember that now. Yep.
It's also one of the big demand for every medium change when we went from CDs or cassette. That was the first order of business that people wanted. Dark Side of the Moon.
Get that back. Yeah, I got to get that on CD.
Yeah.
I got to. Now you got to buy it back on vinyl if you didn't keep it. You know.
Yes.
You know, now that you bring that up, Rick, and I'm sorry I didn't like root through my basement. So Dark Side of the Moon, I actually own on pretty much all forms of media. So I have it on cassette, CD, I have it on vinyl, I have it on 8-track, and I actually have it, yes, on 8mm reel-to-reel, 8mm reel-to-reel.
So
yeah.
So,
You know what's crazy, Anthony?
Might have
It's
been
like-
stolen from a radio station, but I'm not going to mention which one.
uh-oh, Jack.
I know
Oh,
nothing
it wasn't
about it.
Jack.
No information.
It was WZAD, actually.
Okay.
And
Oh,
the
you
crazy
know what?
thing is when you actually meet a rock fan who has never owned it, and I'm like, really?
You
There
want to
are
go and
people
buy
out
it
there
for 'em.
who you don't know what you're missing,
Anyhow,
folks.
finishing on with my list, I'm going to go number 2, Pink Floyd Animals. And kind of echoing what Pardo said earlier, take that 3 songs of dogs, pigs, 3 different ones, and sheep. Those 3 put together, like completely destroy. And usually when you use that kind of terminology, you're talking about a death metal or you're talking about a thrash metal or something really heavy. But to me, I mean, that's just such a heavy, like, and it's so great. And of course, you got that one song, of the dogs. And I remember back in the day when we were kids, anybody that had a dog, it's like, turn that up. And if you had a really good stereo, your dog would start barking and howling with the song. And it's crazy stuff. And of course, honorable mentions for me, number 3, rather, I forgot about number 3. Wish You Were Here, Have a Cigar, title track, Welcome to the Machine. I mean, Welcome to the Machine is just one of the best songs ever written, I think. And now I'm going to move on to honorable mentions. 1970s, Adam Hart Mother. And I'll be truthful. When I was a kid in like teenage years, I didn't really know much about the Syd Barrett stuff at all. I kind of thought they started with Dark Side of the Moon. I was that guy for a while, and I never listened to anything before it. Later on, in life, like how John was saying, I came across a lot of this stuff, and Adam Hart Mother got me some really like bad nights and hard times. That's something I'll put on if I really need to unwind. Like if I'm not sleeping well, sometimes I'll sleep out here and I'll lay on this couch and I'd put Adam Hart Mother, and before you know it, I'm kind of drifted off into somewheres of sleepiness or something, at least.
Adam's psychedelic breakfast.
Yeah, it's just such a mellow, smooth, and I guess years ago, I would say, if you would have asked me in the early 80s, I might have said The Wall was my favorite album by them, but I don't know. I that one I picked, possibly because of the radio play. I've kind of gotten a little tired of that album, but it could just be something in 6 months from now I'm going to say, wow. Now, anything where you put some bands like this, great bands, you put them on the shelf for a little while, and then you bring them back out into your life too, like any bands like Rush or anything, certain eras of AC/DC or anything. You haven't listened to it in years, then you bring it back out and it's fresh again. But The Wall, I cherish that film. I mean, we used to make events of that. I mean, I'm from that age group where that would be a midnight in the theaters and we'd all go and we'd get together. It was like an event, hitting the theater with your like kind of stoner friends and drinking friends, and we'd always like sneak bottles in and, pretend it was a concert. And then later on at the house, we would do stuff like that with films like that one or Heavy Metal, the movie, or like reviewed many times. They're like little hangouts, like, yeah, you want to come over and watch a movie. I was kind of like that whole mentality from that era of like Rocky Horror Picture Show. So I guess that's all I've got to say. So we're going to go around and get some closing statements. And I'm glad I pulled that off. I guess I did okay. So. It's been a long day. I got ceilings falling in at my store. So I'm happy I'm hanging out with you guys in the room and having a beer. I mean, I'd love to be sitting around the campfire out back doing this, but thanks everyone for giving their time and coming on the show tonight. And have a cigar. You're going to go far, man. So we're going to go back to, I guess Jack started us off. Jack, anything you'd like to add to
the honorable mentions? I forgot the two honorable mention songs.
Tonight?
One is one that really, and we do play it at PDH, but it doesn't get a lot of notoriety. One Slip from Momentary Lapse of Reason.
Yes.
Okay.
And the song that producer Bob Ezrin said to Pink Floyd as they were not getting along with each other, look, if you put a disco beat to the song Run Like Hell, it's going to be popular. And I'm sure they're like, why? Well, it's popular back in 78, 79. Disco.
Yeah.
He probably also said, look, if Kiss can pull it off with
I was just going to say that,
I
Jack.
Was Made for Loving You, I'm sure you can pull it off too. So those are my honorable mentions. By the way, I did pull up information on the Yankee Stadium concert, June 10th and 11th. They did 2 shows. In 1994, what was the concluding song? Run Like Hell.
Okay.
They started off with Astronomy to Mine.
Yeah.
And they did 22 songs. Same set list as the previous night. I do want to mention this. If you're a fan of Pink Floyd live, there are some bootlegs available legally. Mr. Pardo, you probably know this website, wolfgangsvault.com.
Yeah, I know it.
Okay.
Yeah.
They got a couple of old Pink Floyd shows on there from the Oakland Coliseum in 77, from the Fillmore West in San Fran, April 29th, 1970. I hit click. They only did 10 songs. Each song averages about 15 minutes.
Wow.
Manchester Meadows, Astronomy to Mine, Cymbeline, Adam Hart, Mother. And it's all. It's a 30-day free trial. And then after that, you pay like $4 a month. I've used it.
Oh, wow.
I've listened to a lot of stuff on there. It's amazing. They got the Fillmore shows when they were syndicated on the radio. They also got King Biscuit Flower Hour, which ran on about 250 radio stations across the country, including PDH. And I have some of them in my closet that they found for me in an old program director's office. One of them happened to be recorded at the Chance in Poughkeepsie in '83. It was Joe Cocker.
Wow.
They brought the mobile truck, I'm sure, parked it in the back and hooked it up. They also did, what was it? War, I think was at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center, and our own Robin Taylor was doing stage announcements, and she sounded like a kid because she was so young back then.
Okay.
So, so I recommend them. And you know who's a good band that covers Pink Floyd? Pearl Jam. They do a lot of Pink Floyd in their shows. And all you have to do is go on YouTube. You can find Mother.
I'll echo that.
Phenomenal version at Fenway Park that you can see on there. Phenomenal version.
Government Mule also.
Yes.
Yeah, you got it in. I was waiting to say Government Mule. And then we've got a local band in the area, The Machine.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I saw them at the Orange County Fair.
They played it so like the Orange County Fair Speedway. If anyone's local, a lot of people aren't, but you're in this room, but some people watching are. Orange County Fair Speedway got a new owner of the fairgrounds a couple of years ago, and they've been trying to rekindle live concerts.
You know it's summer when they're rocking in Middletown.
Yeah, you know it. And they had the Machine there. Not last summer because we couldn't go out and do anything like that.
And they're from the city mostly, right? Those guys are from New York City.
Were they great to watch? They were on
they were phenomenal, and they did mostly old Pink Floyd.
Oh, yeah.
They did a couple of new with a lot of the old material, which I enjoyed.
They were at Sportland, the old Middletown Honda.
Yeah.
I'm going to say 94, 93 or 94. And I saw them. I don't know anybody's names. And the lead singer was, watching me sing, vocals back to him.
Yeah.
And after they did Astronomy Doman, he looked at me and he just kind of leaned over and he was like, hey, if you try to stump me, you can come on stage and do a song. And I was like, what's the deal? And he goes, you know it? And he brought me on stage.
Wow.
And sang what's the deal with them from Obscured by Clouds. Wow. And patted me on the back and he was like, dude, I've never, in all the years we've been doing this, nobody ever knows that song. I was like, it's like one of the first songs I learned on guitar.
Did any of you guys ever see Brit Floyd?
Yes.
No.
I thought they were really good.
Australian Pink Floyd at the Civic Center in Poughkeepsie.
Yeah, they do the whole light thing too, Jack. Yeah.
Lots of
Brit
lasers.
Floyd's really good.
Yeah,
and you know what? When we give out tickets for that show, it's the phone lines light up like crazy. So
that's another.
Yeah, they
thing.
pack out places. It's a really good show.
That's another thing that used to go on back in the day, that you'd have like the Pink Floyd laser light shows at like the planetarium and all these.
They still have
places
them.
where you just go and the lights are all going and
They still have laser light shows.
They have them here in Greensboro.
Do they have them in Florida still, Robin?
You can
Florida,
still-
anything can happen still. I've been really Florida Jonesing lately. I wish my wife was healthy. I was like, let's get in the car and go to Florida.
But I just wanted to thank you, Steve, for inviting me on this chat. I
Oh,
want to
yeah.
thank everybody here. Nice to meet you. Some of them I know, like Mr. Pardo and Mr. Manella, the phlebotomist.
Yeah,
And
Jack, it's great to have you on. Hopefully we'll get you on down the road when we hit some other bands, some classic rock.
now I'm going to go watch my Penguins, who are losing 2-0 right now to the Capitals. I'll talk to
So
you.
you're hopping out of the
Got
room,
out there,
Jack.
Manella.
All right, Jack. So it's good to see you. Hopefully one
to
day
meet
we'll
you.
get back on the bubble hockey table together.
Okay, I'll stay here, but I'm going to watch the Penguin game.
Okay,
with my
yeah,
other
definitely.
partner.
All right. So where are we going next? Anthony, your final statements tonight?
My final statements. I mean, the Floyd. I mean, they were a band I grew up with accidentally. I mean, I got into them in '85. My sister, who's now my estranged sister, here nor there, she brought this guy home who she subsequently married, and he was a Pink Floyd fan. I remember him, talking about Pink Floyd. I remember him being at the house one night for dinner, and I swiped one of my brother's cassettes, and I swiped the wall. I really only knew, Another Brick in the Wall because it had pretty heavy radio play. I mean, I'm from Long Island, so back then I think it was WBAB out of Babylon was like the classic rock station back in the day that would play that. And so I remember sitting at dinner, and I think I was maybe 10, 11 years old, and I just looked at him and I was like, if you don't eat your meat, you can't have any pudding.
Yeah.
And he was like, who is this kid? And that was like, I think that was like I said, I was an accidental fan. I became a fan just to be like, let me try to impress my sister's boyfriend. And, then, he actually wound up, she took me to my first concert, which was the Rolling Stones, and we became, very good friends. We don't speak anymore, but like I said, that's another story for another time.
Okay.
But, my brother, John, who, he passed away, it'll be 9 years next week. He was, Pink Floyd was a staple of his, and he was 10 years older than me. So it's like, I'll always remember him shouting out lyrics with friends, but, lyrics that, were taboo. And, my brother was a gearhead. He was always under the hood of a truck or a car in our garage. And I remember like him and his friend Eric Haber, I still remember the names. And it must have been like, summer of like 87. So, I was like, 13, 12 years old. So my brother was like 22. And I remember like, Pigs being, played on his boombox in the garage. And, he's under the hood, with a torque wrench. And, Eric is, under the truck in a creeper. And like in unison, Eric Haber came out from the creeper. My brother popped his head up and he held up the torque wrench. And I remember them going, "You fucked up old hag." And I'm like, Mom's not going to like that. And so it was like stuff like that where I was like, oh yeah, I gotta
Sounds like a Broadway show. You're guys sliding out and singing.
I got to bring it all to the table. But I think the one thing that I'll always remember, and giving props to you, Steve, when I first moved up to the Hudson Valley from Long Island, I mean, I was completely shattered because it was a sudden thing. I was in the middle of my junior year of high school, and I remember like you have that memory of Dark Side of the Moon for you. I don't know why I had that. I had it on cassette. Like my brother-in-law, like that was the guy that my sister married. He made a copy of it from compact disc, and I remember putting it in my boombox. I remember playing Dark Side of the Moon from beginning to end while I was like unpacking my new bedroom. Here I am. I'm 16. I'm just full of teenage angst. It's like I don't want to speak to my parents. Like, why did you move me up to the sticks? I don't want to, And I just like immersed myself in that album. But for honorable mentions, to go with Astronomy, and because I remember playing it at the store. I think like when I was at SUNY Orange, and I remember every time that part came on with flicka flicka flack, I remember you and I had to do that. We should have had a light show.
And of course, Astronomy to Mine was probably played more in my store, the Voivod version.
I was going to say, the Voivod version.
Years.
Because I mean, I would have to give honorable mentions to three covers: the Voivod version of Astronomy, which I love, and I admit, to tip my hat to the real, like, diehard metalheads, I don't know much about Voivod, with the exception of, Jason Newsted played for him for a bit.
Yeah.
And then it's like, Between the Buried and Me, they did a cover of Us and Them,
Okay.
which I thought was phenomenal. And then, I mean, say what you will, I really enjoyed Korn's version of Another Brick in the Wall.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I really thought, like, Jonathan Davis did a great job with the vocals. I was pretty impressed, and I mean, nobody can play like Gilmour, don't get me wrong, but I think Brian Welch I think he brought something to the table too. I mean, he put his spin on it, but it was definitely fluid enough. My last, like, 2 honorable mentions, Time, only because I cover it, so much.
Okay.
And Echoes, mainly because of the Pompeii, the whole Pompeii thing.
Yeah.
And being a Pompeii, but with all due respect to Dan, I admit, like, when their compilation album came out, I can't think of the name of it. It was like early 2000. It was like it was a greatest hits. If you say it, I'll know it. But they put a version of Echoes on there. It was not the best of. It was.
You got everybody stumped there. What was that album?
Yeah, no, I'm sitting there on my computer. I'm looking at it. And I'm like, oh God, what the hell was it? It was actually called Echoes, the best of Pink Floyd. They released it in 2001.
Okay.
And they put a radio edit version of Echoes on there, and they cut out that whole trippy bridge part, that interlude, and they really shortened it. And the only reason why I was partial to that is because, like, people that didn't know the Floyd, and if I was going on a road trip with somebody like that and I'd put that disc in, they'd be like, oh, cool, because then, if I put it on and they didn't know it, they were like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
Which is right up there, like, with the, from Ummagumma, if you just decided to put on several species of furry mammals grooving together in a cave with a pig, everybody would look at you and be like, dude, aren't these guys great? And people would be like, what are you on, man? No. But I think that's it. They were just a band that, that stayed with me. I mean, everything from, this is actually Inside Out, which was Nick Mason wrote, which is, great for people with ADD like me, because it's primarily pictures. So I didn't have to read much. And actually going with old vinyl that I actually got from Steve, which you were here in Dark Side of the Moon, and it's like, nice. And I'm not gonna go removing clothing, but my first tattoo was I have Dark Side of the Moon on this arm, which, nice. Just completely, so they were that band, like how my brother was so into Kiss, and like my brother would, like, everybody would, bring that to the table with, Kiss trivia. It's like, what was their original name? Wicked Lester. I was that person with Pink Floyd.
Nice.
And I was like, they were called the Megadeths. Why do you know that? But just spanning, I'm going to be 46 in 2 months. So basically spanning, close to 35 years of my life. And, nice. I'm honored that I got to see them, and, even though I know there'll probably never be, another album like, Dark Side or The Wall or the Division Bell. I'm glad we have the music that we have from them, and I'll always celebrate it.
Well, thank you, Anthony, and thank you.
Thanks for having me, man.
And thank you for all you're doing in the battle against this fucking virus and this COVID-19. And you're one of the brave souls that suits up in your, what do you call it? The plastic suit.
I always call, when I go to work, I'm a trauma tech at Garnet Health, for anybody that doesn't know. So it's protective PPE, but I always say to Steve, I'm like, I'll send him a selfie, and you won't even, all you see is my eyes, goggles, the N95, the other mask on top of that, my head wrap, and the gowns, I call them shower curtains, because they are literally made of, you could just go outside and just sleigh ride on your chest. You can do the skeleton.
Yeah.
Because there's no friction, but you sweat like a hooker in church, and you're stuck in there for 13 hours, and it's horrible. But I appreciate this outlet to get my mind somewhere else, because
and I'm glad, hopefully we can get you on another episode down the road about another band that we can bring you in on, or another episode talking about something else.
I appreciate it, man.
Thank you for all you've done for the community with working at the hospital and taking, I remember my mom would be rushed in the ER, and I'm always like, it was always nice to see a familiar face when you're
Yeah.
in the hospital, but so thank you. And right here, man. Thanks.
thank you.
Robun Mazen, the amazing Mason. Do you have a
Right.
statement tonight? I gave you the King John.
I go next again? Okay.
You're next in line. Yep, we're wrapping them around here.
Okay. I mean, everybody pretty much said everything. I was originally did my top albums, but then I switched it to songs. But I
Yeah.
mean, top album is Wish You Were Here.
Okay.
Live at Pompeii, like I'm just gonna say that's like probably one of my favorite, VHS,
VHS, yeah.
I mean, I used to watch it almost every weekend. It was so good.
Wow.
I have it here somewhere on but I never have props like you guys. I'm never prepared for props.
That's okay.
I mean, as far as songs, I mean, everybody's mentioning them, so there's not much to say on that. And my only thing that I am gonna say, I have a friend that was involved in writing a book. It's called Coming Through in Waves. And it's basically
Nice.
they took each Pink Floyd song and made it a horror story.
Okay. Wow.
And like all the proceeds go to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society.
Okay.
So it's available on Amazon if anybody's interested. She doesn't know I'm plugging it, but I thought it was like a cool concept and, everything like that. If you're I mean, most people that are going to watch this are into Pink Floyd and probably into horror,
Yeah.
so, and, it goes to a good charity and a good cause. So I'm just going to throw that out there because I'm, and,
Nice.
yeah, that's pretty much, I think I said everything before. And I mean, my mom might watch this, so I don't want to bring up my watching or listening to Pink Floyd in high school and earlier with illegal substances.
We'll have to talk about that when we go on our after party
Yeah,
section.
I'll talk about that later. So that's about it.
And I always thought that the Pink Floyd was only related to what was the movie? Wizard of Oz. Remember that was the big deal. You get the bootleg where
you could line up Dark Side of the Moon. I remember that.
Yeah, you'd watch Dark Side of the Moon, and it kind of went with the Wizard of
Yeah,
Oz.
I
movie.
kind of feel like I remember that. I don't.
That's everybody's homework for this week to go.
I was one of the fools who did it at one point.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
this totally matches.
It
Yeah, I
did?
did it.
For real?
I remember when we first had that. Like, I remember it was like a bootleg you would buy like at the fairgrounds, and we were working a fair or something. You'd like, bring that home. We got to smoke up and listen to this. And like, yeah, I guess it does. It kind of does, right? Cool. Daniel, your finishing closing statements for the files tonight. Thanks for coming on tonight again.
Well, what can I say? Well, like I think John was making a point of it, and I think other people mentioned it too about Dark Side of the Moon being one of the best sounding albums ever. And Alan Parsons has a lot to do with it. If it
Amen.
wasn't for Alan Parsons, that album probably would have sounded completely different. He was such a perfectionist engineer that he got everything. There's nothing out of phase in that album. No guitars, no drums, no everything.
No.
The late in the late 90s, early 2000s, I would work studios and stuff like that. Somebody would buy new monitors or whatever, like they always try to tune rooms to Dark Side of the Moon. Our new producer would come to the studio and he will try to, train his ears to the room, to the speakers, to Dark Side of the Moon, because it was such a solid sounding perfection that it's definitely, that's completely true.
I agree with that for sure.
And I mean, it's they have, like, we've been discussing, they have so many different eras, and they're all so special.
Yeah.
That is, it's really difficult to do that in a few minutes. We probably need to do like 4 of these shows to like go over.
Yeah, we could always come back and just talk about the Sid Barrett era.
Different parts of of their history, because they didn't always hate each other. That only happened kind of like at the end. So they did have a lot of magic, and I'm also pleasantly surprised that most of you really like are fans of the Live at Pompeii, because I thought I was like the only one. Like
Definitely one of my favorites.
I love it so much that I have it on audio, like in my phone, and I have MP3 versions, like high quality MP3 versions of it, because the songs they play there, like they're like better versions of the album songs.
Mhm.
Even jammy songs like Careful with That Axe, Eugene, it's so much better than the album. Like, Roger Waters doing this like high pitched screams that would make any black metal singer like shrivel in comparison. Like something completely unheard of, like, especially by that time. I think that was like probably 71, 72. That they did that taping. So I'm really glad that it's recognized amongst fans, because it's really is very special. And I think it was very special moment in the band. Like, they were finding their own sound, and we going along with the experimentation with the gear. The technology was starting to get better with synthesizers and stuff like that, and sequencers, and they all got really into it. So it all paid off. So so one of my favorite bands, and we can keep talking about this as long as you guys want. So just bring another point, I'll jump in.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for your time again tonight, Dan. It's always a pleasure having you on the show. We've been covering all different things. Last Tuesday when Dan was on, we were talking about other bands play, Manowar, Kill.
Right.
And now we're here talking about Pink Floyd.
Complete 180, but hey,
we're doing well. We're getting well rounded. And Peter Pardo, our center square tonight.
All right, I'll keep it short and sweet because I know we're running long, but I just want to give my favorite 3 albums. And ironically, they all kind of came in a row. The magical 3 albums. I know they have a couple more, but these are my favorites. My number 3 is Dark Side of the Moon.
Okay.
Pretty much a perfect album, right? Wish You Were Here is my number 2.
Yeah.
And I think everybody knows what my number 1 is. This is, for me, the best Pink Floyd album, and can listen to it any day. I will say, no one's really talked about what they don't like from Pink Floyd. And I would love to take a minute to and I do it all the time on my channel, but the only Pink Floyd album, in my opinion, that is not worth my time ever is The Final Cut, which I find to be boring, dark, and just not a lot of fun. And when you really think about it, all the albums they have, the fact that there's only one, for me anyway, that I pretty much don't care for. But everything else,
I agree. I agree with you now. I wasn't like that earlier. The Final Cut was an album that I liked, and then as I got older, I started to despise it.
Yeah, it's just like depressing and
well,
I mean, I'm not being an asshole, but it's like
no real songwriting on that.
Your dad's dead. We get it.
It's kind of it has its brief moments, but there's no real songwriting. If you notice, that's kind of like Waters really took over.
Oh,
and
yeah.
If you listen to the Waters solo stuff,
yeah,
it's kind of like that, there's no real
Gunner's Dream, and it's like
it was almost like Roger Waters was just pissed off and just telling everyone to piss off.
Yeah.
That was when they already like almost.
But I have to defend Roger Waters because as much as I like the last two records they did with just Gilmour taking, I guess, the leadership role, they lost the darkness and anger that band had after Waters was gone. So
And plus Waters' solo album, I like that. The pros and
the
cons.
last
of
one was
hitchhiking.
pretty good, I thought.
And the last one was good too. It just, when you put on one of his albums, you just know it's going to be like, don't have like a party with that album. You know, it's going to be like wah wah wah.
Not a party album. It's not like listening to Van Halen after the show, right?
Yeah.
That's what Van Halen is for.
The final cut was almost going to be called Spare Bricks because it was the leftover from the wall. And so it lost direction.
Yeah.
And Pros and Cons of Hitchhiking was also
I was just going to say that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. They had a choice. You want to go here or go get there? And they just said, well, there was a lot of internal fighting over it, though.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question really quick? I mean, Pete or Dan, if you can bring this to the table real quick. The pros and cons of hitchhiking, and then if you look at Gilmour's solo album, About Face, was it?
Yeah.
Well, he had one before that.
Yeah, but case in point, maybe it's just me. If you never thought about it, fine. Was there some kind of either act of disrespect or something that David Gilmour did this on the cover, like he was hitchhiking, or was it just me?
Never thought about that.
Maybe.
With the jacket. He had the
was he
jacket.
basically doing that to Roger? Because you could see, like, he's got his hand on his jacket, but he's like, his thumb is just completely outstretched, like it doesn't need to be. I don't know. Think about that, and we'll talk later.
That now.
It's a good observation.
Thanks, man.
Pete Pardo, are you finishing up your statement? I don't know if you were finished.
No, the only thing I was going to throw out there in regards to the final cut is I've been told, and there's folks out there who think that's the greatest album they ever did. And I appreciate that. But I've been told by plenty folks, British folks from Britain or the UK, who said that we Americans will never understand that album because the lyrical concept behind that album is very British and very speaks to how British people feel about wars and all that kind of stuff. So, and that may be true, and maybe that's why some of us don't really understand that album. I just know, to my ears, that album is just not pleasing to listen to. But,
I mean, I think that's when the lyrics took precedence over the music. And music that was the problem.
Very one note album, I think.
Waters. Definitely, the lyrics are more important, and almost all the stuff he does, you can tell it. But there are aspects to the final cut that I think is okay. There's moments of like genius, but not quite enough.
I like Two Sons in the Sunset. That's about it.
Yeah. But when you're looking at a classic Pink Floyd album, I mean, are there any tracks that you skip?
The one.
Really? No, right? And then all of a sudden you come to that album, it's like, whoa, what happened here, right?
Get your filthy hands off my desert.
So that's it. But thanks for having me, Steve. I appreciate it.
Always a pleasure to have you on, Pete. You bring your army of the Sea of Tranquility fans along, and Rick is one of them. Okay, he put the thumbs up for you. He's drinking from your mug and everything.
How do you do that?
So Alex, I guess we're going to wrap up, get your final statements, and then we'll go to Rick and we'll go to John, and we will, and I'll finish up and talk about some things we've got coming up on the channel. And anybody wants to plug anything about their bands or anything else, they can make a quick plug in this final comments to statements. Cool, Alex.
Well, I guess I'll close with this. I mean, first, thank you for having me on.
Always an honor.
Pink Floyd is, if there's two bands in my life that meant the most to me, was Pink Floyd and Black Sabbath. And as a kid, hearing that music, what attracted me to it was it scared me at first. So I was a little kid in the 70s, and I remember, my two of my uncles were really into like, the heavy rock of the early 70s, and also they used to play me all these records. And so I remember hearing Pink Floyd, and it was pretty sure it was probably like Ummagumma or Metal or something that I heard first. And it was probably around the same time I heard like Black Sabbath, Paranoid. And Black Sabbath, you had like the photo and the gatefold, the Paranoid had the four of them standing there, if I remember correctly. And, you know, I could see the face on them, but Pink Floyd, there was no photos of the band.
Yeah.
So I remember, I think might have been like Cream Magazine or something. I saw a photo of Roger Waters, and he was scary looking back then. I don't know why. It just kind of scared me. It was just like when I saw Alice Cooper as a kid, you know. But the thing is like, for instance, like somebody brought up Kiss. I don't remember. And, you know, when I saw, and I was, you know, I'm a huge Kiss fan, but when I first saw like Gene Simmons, I was just like, oh, they must sound like Black Sabbath and evil, like Pink Floyd sounding or something, which was the total opposite. And like I said, I'm a huge Kiss fan, but, you know, the image didn't really mix with the music, you know, because Kiss was good time rock and roll. And, but, you know, I think between Pink Floyd and Black Sabbath, that kind of set me on my way, you know, years later for the type of music that I've been playing most of my life, which is on the dark side of things. And you know, Pink Floyd is probably, you know, that and Sabbath, like the most important music in my life, you know, that touched me the most. And, you know, there's nothing more important than that. And if you think, you know, somebody was talking about Dark Side of the Moon, how many records, how long it was on the charts.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, Pink Floyd they were kind of, you know, an underground band originally. And for them to make that kind of mark, you know, because let's face it, through most of the time in music, it's just, you know, it's plastic, you know, BS that hits the charts, and the real genuine stuff is usually the more underground stuff. So for a band like Pink Floyd to get, you know, to make that mark that they did and to withstand the years, it's impressive, you know, and I think that's just the human connection, you know, with the music. And I just like I said, it's probably the most important music in my life, you know, is Pink Floyd and Black Sabbath. So, you know, but I think that's what set me on my way, really, because, you know, it's Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, all the stuff came out as a kid, and I was seeing the record, you know, seeing the first Maiden cover and Killers and all this kind of stuff, and, you know, it was just like, oh, it's that dark thing that I'm looking for. So, but yeah, so Pink Floyd, I could sit here and talk about Pink Floyd all day long.
Guess we'll have to do another episode of Pink Floyd because people want to talk about
tons
more.
of
So maybe in a month or so we'll come back and we'll talk about deep cuts or something. Yeah.
I'm game.
Yeah,
I'm in.
Everybody's in.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Alex. And we're going back to see Mr. Rick Labonte all the way up in Windsor, Ontario. Is it
PDH?
Yes.
Hey,
First of
hanging
all,
out
it was
with-
nice meeting everybody, and glad to network with people that love music and like yourself. I'm glad that we all share those deep appreciation for live at Pompeii and all those different things that we talked about tonight. So it was interesting. I really enjoyed it. I just want to say give a couple of honorable mentions, and also a little bit about the solo work is worth looking into, right? You already mentioned it, John. Roger Waters put out some great records. David Gilmour got some great records. And so we get to experience them individually, but it's not quite the same without the whole period between 70 and 79. And we just got to appreciate what they have. And that's why I hope to see more live concerts. So I will check that out, Jack. Thank you for sharing that. We rely a lot on Detroit, Cleveland, and Toronto for our radio station down in Windsor. So we get the best of a lot of people. And I've seen all my shows either in Toronto or Detroit, going over the border to see these bands. And it's always been a great memory. And I think they got better as they aged, because Roger Waters actually has a good time and engaged with the audience more than just all business like they did in the earlier days. David Gilmour was able to stray from the set list and say, you know what, Prince died, so we're gonna play Purple Rain on the spot, right in the middle of Comfortably Numb. He would do stuff because they're now enjoying their fame. And I just wish they could have got their thing together. But it was nice to see him come back for Live Aid that one time, that one brief little history, because it shows you that they can bury a hatchet. And I'm glad that they kind of have that history. That would have been nice. Just honorable mention, Time, Echo, Fearless, Fat Old Sun, Goodbye, Blue Sky, and Hey You. These are some of the songs that I look forward to it. But like Pete said and everybody said, I'm an album guy and I have to hear from the beginning to it. I make an appointment for Pink Floyd. I don't just randomly grab. I make sure I set the mood for Pink Floyd because it's an experience. And just like when you go to this show, it's an experience. So that's all I want to say. Thanks a lot, everybody. Appreciate.
Thank you, Rick. It's awesome to have you on. I'm glad you're such a fan of Rock Fantasy Files and Peter's Sea of Tranquility and John Mcatee.
Okay.
Back.
Yep.
And he's a #1 driver of this channel along with me right now. Pretty much, he's been doing a lot of interviews. So at the end of his little comments, he can tell us a little bit about some upcoming episodes he's got too. So thanks, John.
Well, first I want to say I did a killer interview with Alex.
You did
just about a week ago or something. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Just a lot. It was almost more of just like a fun, like two people BSing, two friends BSing about metal and stuff, which is, to me,
Ross actually texted me today saying he watched it. He was just like, "Oh my God!" He says he was laughing, watching the interview and stuff, just bringing back, some
a lot of good
stories.
memories. It's really fun to have that very kind of old school musician to musician kind of interview.
Yeah, that was really good. I'm glad you did it.
But anyway, as far as Floyd goes, okay, they're a great band. Everyone knows that, they kick ass. I never got to see Pink Floyd, live in person. For a while, I didn't care until I was, till they were kind of done with. Division Bell, I didn't get to see him because I was gone on tour around that time with my band, so I missed that. And by that time, it was super ridiculous price to pay to see him play anyway. It's worth it, but I'm still not at that time, a couple $100 to go see a band was a little rough for a starving musician anyway, but basically, I got to see both in the last few years. I got to see David Gilmour and Roger Waters play live, and both shows were, phenomenal. I still have to say that David Gilmour was better just because it was no bullshit. It was just like he just came out with his band, had the lights and stuff like that, but didn't have the huge show like Roger Waters. But the music just spoke to me more. Just something about him playing those songs on guitar. Like I said, I'm just a guitar player, so I just love his guitar playing. So, it was just, it just blew my mind watching him in person. I was sitting there or standing there just watching. Like, I just couldn't believe that I actually was in the same room with, such amazing talent on guitar. It was just such an amazing feeling. Actually, I wanted to get Alex to go with me to that show too, but he ended up not going
couldn't make it.
Yeah, because I seen it up in I seen it in Toronto when they did that tour. It was I forget what it was, the hockey arena up in Toronto where I seen him play, and it was just an amazing show. So good.
Nice.
Actually, I went with Sharon from Dercada and her boyfriend at the time. But it was a great so anyway, it was just amazing. And obviously I wish I would have seen him, back in the day, but at the time I just didn't get it. It's one of those bands, I think for most people, it's like you don't get it until you get it. Hopefully somewhere along the line you get it, because it is it's complex. Especially for somebody like me, kind of a more of a metal, death metal kind of guy, you can easily get turned off by just the smoothness of the music and stuff.
Yeah.
So you give it the proper chance and you kind of start understanding the different dynamics of it. So, but the Roger Waters show was also really great too. The set list was phenomenal. It was really, really, both shows were great. yeah, you can't really go wrong really with either one. Yeah, so I guess that's it.
Cool.
I mean,
Cool.
you know, any album by Pink Floyd for the most part, you know, I'd be happy with. Yeah, the Final Cut, maybe pass on that one. You know, I wouldn't be like the first album you should get, because you'll probably
No.
find that one
Yeah.
everywhere for like super cheap. Don't buy it. Spend the
My
extra
wife
money.
loves
and
the
buy another
Final
one.
Cut though, so.
Is that right?
That's cool. Everybody likes
loves
their
that
something
album.
different,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, exactly. You know,
That's
some
right.
people
And
some people don't like what's it? Black Sabbath, Never Say Die, you know. What
or
can I say?
forbidden.
Great album, Never Say Die.
Never Say Die. We're bringing it up again. Every show we're
Sorry.
going to talk about Never Say Die. And our love for it.
Anyway,
Priest Turbo.
It's probably my least
People
Ozzy
are
favorite
hiding in
record,
shame.
but it's a great record.
We're
But,
going to listen to Air Dance as soon as this is over.
I actually saw that tour, Never Say Die tour, when I was a
Awesome.
kid.
My
My second concert, Van Halen opening, I think. Yeah, it was Van Halen opening.
Oh, you got to see that tour.
Yes.
That's one I didn't
yeah.
get to see.
I
And
saw Queen right before that, and then I saw Black Sabbath and Van Halen.
we were
Wow.
talking about
Spectrum.
we're gonna come back and do a Queen episode in a few weeks. It was some of John's ideas and
Cool.
my
My first concert.
talking about bands that you don't get. I mean, I was that way. Like he said, he was that way with Pink Floyd, and my metalheads are gonna run out of room. I was that way with the Grateful Dead, and I really love the Grateful Dead now. And that was a band that back in the day, I like Grateful Dead. Now I don't understand. I even went to like a show, and I'm like, why are people dancing? There's no rhythm to it to dance.
Yeah, the Grateful Dead was one of those bands I remember seeing the skull and all that stuff when I was a kid.
I mean, their imagery,
Like,
their logos and imagery are some
I
of the
don't know.
best in rock, of course.
yeah, my brother was a Deadhead, so I was like totally against it.
Yeah, not my bag.
Yeah, not my
But
cup of tea.
anyhow, that's a few of the guests aren't coming back for the Dead episode down the road.
Anyway, I'll do my plugs. I have interviews coming up with Martin Van Druun, with Hobbs from Suffocation. Who else do we got? We got Jeff Pizzera from Possessed.
That'll be coming up this week. That'll be going live. Right,
A couple others. Then we have a couple of some other death metal shows doing a Swedish death metal show, and we're trying to get. We're doing one on the Canadian thrash scene of the '80s. Get a couple of those
Nice.
bands on.
Yeah,
How you talking?
Yeah, so some
Cool.
other stuff we're trying to get going
Excellent.
on here. Yeah.
It's been a big help, and Robin and everybody's been a real help with this, just networking and getting people from different bands and stuff that, like, they know everyone, and they're like, oh yeah, that guy, he loves that band, so we have to get him on. So it's all
It's been a lot of
working
fun.
out well, and it's given us all something to do with our brains other than watching the news and hearing vaccines and whatever else stuff. But tomorrow night, of course, this is the end of the show. Thanks for everybody coming on. Please take a second and subscribe to the channel. Please go out and buy merchandise from all the bands that are on here. Go buy a t-shirt or buy a CD or something from their website. Support all these bands and everybody that's out of work right now. We're
I
gonna
have no merchandise.
You don't have any merchandise, Anthony Menella, but thank you. You're doing all
Yeah, thank
you're
you,
doing
Anthony.
everything to keep
Appreciate
us
what you
safe
do.
in town. And
Thanks, man.
tomorrow we will be back with another episode of the Rock Fantasy Files, our usually weekly edition, which kind of jumped into 2 or 3 editions lately. We're going to be visiting Ozzy Osbourne solo era tomorrow night, and we'll have Chris Caffrey will be in the house. John will be back. Robin will be back. Andrew Freeman from Last in Line. Philip Susan from Ozzy, played with Ozzy on the Ultimate Sin album. And we'll have Sydney and Taylor from Metal from the Inside podcast. We're going to have Rich Catino from Brave Words Metal Asylum, who's always with Pete a lot. And Robin's going to be back, I think I already mentioned. And who knows, we might even get another surprise guest. So thank you for everything.
Maybe
and,
Ozzy Osbourne.
we don't have a Sharon Osbourne coming?
Yeah, maybe Sharon, maybe Ozzy.
Maybe Ozzy. Maybe we were talking Rudy Sarza for a little while, but we didn't hear anything. But and then of course next week it's going to be one of Robin's episodes she picked. We're going to go visit Metallica.
Sorry, I'm gonna be the only guest because I'm gonna talk for 4 hours. Probably.
Yeah, I think it's just a James Hetfield episode.
And, And we've got some other ones coming down the road. We're going to talk about Slayer in a couple weeks. So we're getting all the heavy duty bands out of the way. All right. So thanks everyone. And thanks for joining us tonight. And please
Hey, man,
comment
nice meeting
your
everybody.
favorite Pink
For those
Floyd.
I don't know.
All right.
All right, guys.